Oh, there we go. I saw it. I had a YouTube notification. Yeah, of course. I don't have enough internet to make it go. Figures. Remember the days when we used to do Facebook Live, at least the internet, you just needed the bare minimum. YouTube, you need a lot of bandwidth. Well, at least I can read some of the comments now. Yes, it is. 3rd and Fairfax. They're actually moving eastbound. They're moving eastbound right now on Fairfax. Well, it definitely looks like they're passing the Grove, but it gives you an idea of the size of the crowd right now as they're taking up the couple of lanes of 3rd Street, making their way eastbound from Fairfax. The pro-Palestinian asking, or the ceasefire is basically what they are demanding or chanting about, and you can see that large crowd is making their way right now. Again, mostly peaceful. We haven't seen any real violent aggression from anybody in this crowd all afternoon. You've got a couple of the vehicles right there that are trailing. Earlier on, they were ahead of the crowd. You do have that one pickup truck at the front. Now, this all supposedly started, and the only reason I say supposedly is because we didn't actually witness it, but started at Pan Pacific Park, which is about a major block to the north of this street that we see here on 3rd. It made its way from that park into the Grove earlier on. They made a couple of routes through the Grove and then made their way out onto 3rd Street. That's where they met those vehicles, and those vehicles blocked the intersection there at Fairfax and 3rd. That's where they took over that intersection. Now, LAPD, they are here for sure. They're keeping an eye on everything that's going on. There hasn't been any arrests or anybody taken into custody as far as we know or have heard, because the crowd, for the most part, has been peaceful. You can see LAPD out there basically just kind of working to keep the public away from the crowd itself. They don't want any agitators into this group, and it has been, for the most part, very peaceful. moving eastbound right now on 3rd Street. You can see a large crowd, vehicles that they're walking by, the large crowd passing by a lot of these vehicles. This is what has been going on for the most part this afternoon. Again, when they took over that intersection, there was some tense moments, will admit, with some of the cars, people just not sure what was going on. This large crowd of people basically taking over the streets where there was traffic, and this created some angst. But in the end, the crowd allowed most of the vehicles through one way or another, and others were able to make that U-turn. So LAPD, they are here, believe me, they are here in force. If something should change quickly, they would be down there in that crowd very, very quickly. But at the most part right now, to keep people safe, they are here. There's just a few of them making themselves seen by the crowd and by the people that are watching it. You can see a number of LAPD vehicles behind it. There's a couple of them in the front. But again, the only thing right now is what I'm hearing is they do not want this crowd onto any private property anymore, meaning the Grove and or the Farmers Market. We're making our way pretty much past the Grove right now. As we were talking about earlier on, this started at Pan Pacific Park, which is right there. So they didn't make their way through the Grove. Not sure if they're going to make their turn right there and go back, just back into that park area. But right now, definitely making their opinions known out on 3rd Street this afternoon. Again, this is Black Friday. A lot of the signs are saying not business as usual. You can see that first sign right there. They are disrupting a little bit of business, but as far as getting their message across, I believe they are doing as they intend to. Peaceful, yes. About the numbers, I'm going to put it as safely as LAPD has been saying this afternoon, right in the 500 mark is a realistic number of the folks that are down there, and they want a ceasefire. They are the pro-Palestinian group down there, and again, just making their way around on 3rd Street, away from eastbound from Fairfax. It does look like they're going to start making that turn. That is technically Grove Drive. Now, LAPD, they kind of said, but we don't want them back onto the Grove property. Grove Drive is not part of their property. That might just be the way they're going to get back over to Pan Pacific Park. But right now, you can see them in that intersection. It's slow moving again. And basically, they want just to be seen and be heard. That's what's happening right now, that they are achieving their goal. Nobody's been arrested. Nobody's been taken into custody. And they continue to move slowly down 3rd Street. Disrupting traffic? Definitely. Putting some people in some of these cars, especially these first ones, into a little bit of a frenzy? Possibly. And this is what I always kind of worry about. You get somebody that's easily panicked or somebody that is scared or elderly, and, the next thing you know, somebody's hitting the gas instead of the brakes. People are going to start getting injured. You can see other folks getting out of vehicles, don't know if these are pro or against what's going on, or maybe just curious. Let's just leave it at curious. You can see somebody with their cell phone out, but it does definitely look like they're going to be making a northbound turn here onto Grove Drive off of 3rd Street, and this might bring them back, or could bring them back to the Pan Pacific Park where this rally started. That might be their plan, or possibly they might want to make another couple of blocks. But if their idea is to get back into the Grove, LAPD, well, they said that's not what they want, or the Grove is not welcoming them back in there. You can see a couple of officers out there blocking the roadway. Now, again, this is one of those spots where this might just be a communication issue, but again, this could turn into something else very quickly. The park, this is Pan Pacific Park, that's where this started. Be fair about it, it started up on the northern end of the park. We're on the southern end of the park right now, so we're going to keep an eye on it. Hopefully this doesn't change up and it stays peaceful. But LAPD now not allowing them to make that turn northbound onto Grove Drive, and putting up a line there saying, nope, you guys can't come this way. But LAPD, we'll see how this goes. Right now, they've been basically just trying to keep this as peaceful as possible, allowing them to take over the street and that intersection. But getting back onto that private property, that is not allowed at this time. So we'll keep an eye on what's going on here. If things change, believe me, we'll be calling it out as quickly as possible. But again, thank you guys for at least tuning in and taking a peek at what's going on. And if this is part of your plans this afternoon, possibly to go to the Grove's still open at this point. Encouraging people to come down here, I would say no right now, at least until this is officially over, these folks have gone home, because as long as they're out here, this could change up very quickly. I don't want to see anybody get injured or this turn into something other than what we've been seeing. You can see some of these cars right now making those U-turns. That's what we saw earlier on. Because, again, LAPD, some people might say, well, why aren't they taking care of traffic? Well, you know what? This is a fluid situation. It's moving along. You're watching it move. So, again, they don't know where this crowd wants to go. Nobody is communicating with law enforcement. So right now they're doing the best they can to keep the public safe. But again, whenever there's a situation that we're seeing right here with like a lot of vehicles around a group of people, you just don't know who is behind the wheel there. And I don't mean that in a facetious way. Somebody could get scared or panic, and it could just turn into something else. That's my biggest concern. Right now, though, you can see some of the crowd making their way onto that sidewalk as LAPD telling them you're not allowed to come back up onto this roadway. There's some communication right there. Those orange vests and those yellow vests seem to be organizers of this group, so perhaps they're just communicating there. Look, we just want to get back to the park. Our cars are parked over there. How are we going to get back to our vehicles? How are we going to disperse if we can't go up the street? That might be the discussion. I can't solve the world's problems for sure, but there seems to be some communication going on down there between LAPD and the organizers of this group. But again, even though that person might have the best intentions, he's got a large crowd here. They're going to do what they want to do. And some of these people starting to make these U-turns, trying to get out of this area. And that's what I just want to keep an eye on. I just don't want to see anybody get hurt for any reason at all. It seems like they're making their way onto the park property down there. Maybe there's no fence there. I can't imagine this area being fenced in. So maybe they're just going to walk through the park. If anybody's wondering what that smoke is that we keep seeing right there, it keeps coming up, I believe that's some sort of urn and or incense being burned. There was somebody that was in the head of the group earlier on with the banner that was reading the not business as usual, and he's been out there possibly. I believe that's what we're seeing right there. But you can see that crowd. Again, very peaceful this afternoon. I just got to call it like I see it. And making their way into that park that's going to be Pan Pacific Park. So the crowd finding their way around this while some of the organizers still talking with LAPD. Some of the vehicles making their way. These are the ones that are definitely with the group and were staying with the group, kind of organizing it, keeping it together when they took over that intersection, putting the vehicles out first, and then the crowd kind of filled it in. So not sure how they're going to get there. Possibly LAPD are going to allow them to just drive around the block. That'd probably be the best way. Don't take the Grove Drive and just make their way around to the northern part of the park. But now the crowd definitely seems to be getting off of the streets. That's going to be 3rd Street. And making their way onto the park property, and that's where this rally started this afternoon before noon. After that, they made their way out of the park, into the Grove, out of the Grove, onto 3rd Street, and then took over the intersection of Fairfax and 3rd. Now, basically doing a reverse course, staying off the private property, as LAPD did request it. They wanted them not to make their way onto the Grove property and or Farmers Market. Seems like everybody is being very compliant and now making their way off the streets, onto the sidewalks, into that park area. This might be where this rally ends peacefully this afternoon. And again, this all happening in the Mid-Cities area here in Los Angeles. I don't think anybody's signing off on it. Somebody made a comment there and said something about, everybody, a lot of the comments here, let's just say less than constructive. But, somebody was saying who keeps signing off on this. I don't think this one really was signed off on. I don't think they had a permit to come out and protest. And even if they did, it probably was just for the park. But the attitude is, instead of, agitating, just let them peacefully protest, and then it will culminate and dissipate on its own. Look at me with the big words, huh? Anyhow, that seems to be the way it's been going out here. So LAPD, they've been handling, we've been watching it, trust me, for the last couple of years, been handling a lot of protests out here in the Los Angeles area. And LAPD has become very proficient with handling large crowds and keeping the violence to a minimum. You can see that, no, I'm not insulting your comments. Your comments are all very valid. And you can see that crowd actually moving right now, making their way back over to Pan Pacific Park. But again, it is, for the most part, peaceful but spicy. I did like that comment. Definitely like that comment. But it keeps it moving along out here, and the crowd getting off the streets right now, and that's really what anybody wants to see. We want to see that traffic starting to move along again easily without any pedestrians blocking the roadways, and that seems to be what is going on out here. A lot of that crowd making their way back onto Pan Pacific Park. And again, a lot of these folks, they started this and they were up on the northern end of this park. LAPD keeping them off the property, probably because they don't want them to spill back onto the Grove. That was their biggest concern right now. The Grove basically saying we don't want these folks back onto our property, disrupting merchants and scaring their patrons. So you can see them making their way right now. They are on the park property, working their way northbound. Again, this is the area where it started this morning, the northern end of the park. That's where there's a large parking lot. I would venture to say a lot of these folks have their cars there. And after this is all done, they got to drive home as well. So right now it seems to be dissipating as we had expected and hoped for, peacefully, with no injuries, nobody being taken into custody. Again, though, this crowd making their way back onto the Pan Pacific Park area, getting off of 3rd Street. And LAPD seems to be one of these ones, again, where they handled this the most correct way, as we haven't seen any arrests, we haven't seen any property damage, and we definitely haven't seen any violence this afternoon. So a good job on the LAPD's part for sure. Again, this all happening out here on Fairfax and Grove Drive. And again, this was a pro-Palestinian protest, or rally this afternoon. And you can see them making their way onto that park property right now and getting off the roadways. Veronica, that would be me. And Andrew, I agree. And now I'm starting to agree with a lot of the comments, actually. All right, let me find out if we are off to the problem out in Newhall. The other problem that I'm talking about, definitely not a protest or anything political at all. Personally, political issues are always difficult for me. As anybody else, we all have opinions and ideas about what's going on. I try to be as middle of the road as possible at all times. Again, though, this was, as we saw it, a protest that had spilled out onto the streets, blocking traffic. LAPD chose to just kind of allow it, and in the end, it was the right thing to do. You got a couple of vehicles still blocking the roadway, maybe just for some photo ops out there, but now they are starting to move out of the way as well. I'm sure LAPD encouraging that, maybe verbally, who knows, but you can see the most of the protesters now on Pan Pacific Park. LAPD, they've got some cruisers still out there in the roadway. One thing I've learned watching the Los Angeles Police Department, they don't, unless it's a pursuit, they don't do anything very quickly, especially when it comes to crowd control. So they probably will be out here for a little bit, just making sure it doesn't spill back out onto the roadway. As far as traffic goes, I would venture to say they will open up 3rd Street here shortly. Again, this all happening very close to the Grove out here in the Mid-Cities area. But that crowd making its way onto Pan Pacific Park off the roadways this afternoon. Again, I don't know if they plan on breaking it up, heading on home, doing their handshakes and hoo-haws, or they might just regroup and head back out. But as it stands right now, they're off the roadways. LAPD still out here making sure that it stays peaceful as it has been. And you can see that crowd culminating, another big word, look at that, out here on Pan Pacific Park. This is the area where it started this afternoon. And I'm not sure if you guys are still up with us, but if you are, we're just giving you some nice high and wide, some scenic shots of Hollywood. That would be Hollywood right there that we're basically looking at. I was just going to say Los Angeles, but I figured we'd be a little bit more exact. And it was pushed into the Hollywood sign there just for a moment or two, but we are going to go off to something else, so I have a feeling digital is going to dump our picture here shortly, just letting you guys know, and we'll catch you on the next one. Foxborough. Sounds like what they should call us. 11935 Foxborough. I wonder if I'm saying that right. There it is, 7 miles away. Yep, out to the west we go.